if you're able to reasonably accurately predict the attendance at a forthcoming match, does that give you some flexibility in terms of how many programmes you have printed? Because there have been umpteen times when you've run out of programmes. Now, I appreciate that you don't want to be left with 300 or 400 unsold programmes, but perhaps better to be left with 100 occasionally if you can sell an extra 400 or 500. You know, I don't know what the economics are, but it seems to me that has not been got right over the last.
Yeah, we'd rather sell out than have loads left, I suppose. But we have increased. We have now increased the. We're now producing 600. So we've got 600 programmes being produced for Saturday's game. Fewer people buy for our programmes than used to buy them. It's £3 a time now as well.
Yeah, but
so we've got 600 on Saturday.
I mean, I don't normally buy a programme, but a colleague of mine who stands behind the goal, more often than not, they're sold out.
Yeah, so
And
I've kind of been working. So one of the close friends of mine is a guy who organises all the programme sellers, and also I deal with George a lot, who's a media marketing guy here. Like Paul said, we've increased our print run for Saturday, so we've printed another 100 off than we normally do. We have sold out in certain games, and I get moaned at as well by my friend who sells them, because obviously he gets all angry punters that turn up on the day and can't buy a programme as well. So we have listened to that. We've increased our print run from Saturday, where we're producing another 100. Spoke with him to print our printers as well to ensure that it's not a financial loss to us. And we'll see how Saturday goes. If we sell out Saturday, we'll look to print some more. And I think as we get towards the end of the season, we may increase that print run again.
It's a great programme, by the way. I think, you know, I've been at different clubs and that, and I think it's a well thought out, well presented programme. So whoever does that, congratulations.
Wouldn't it be possible for people to reserve a programme, maybe phone the club, so they collect it from the club shop on the way in, if they reserve one?
Well, I think that's why you couldn't have a subscription. So you sign up at the beginning of the season, and
Well, people do, don't they? People come into the reception for a programme. So there's somebody in the Ruby Club, is it, or something like that? There's certainly a group of people come in to collect programmes.
Someone did come up with the idea. We've got to look into these things and see if they're financially viable, because we don't want to make it a loss then for our programme sales. But someone talked about having them available online. So we've got the suggestion come up: can you buy one online? And so you don't actually get the physical programme; you read it online.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that is doable. It's a takeaway question for us to go and look into. What you don't want to do is obviously sell them online and then no one buy them on the match day, and you end up making a loss. So.
But what has happened about the proposal to do the land swap and the entrance?
That's still with the Borough Council. They're just looking at the logistics and the finances of, because obviously there are financial implications for doing the land swap. So it's actually with the council at the moment.
Is it going to go ahead, do you think?
I'm in a difficult position, but I think it probably will go ahead. Yeah, I mean the council is obviously keen to provide social housing, but also the council, as owner of this site, wants to make sure that whatever it does here or over there doesn't restrict the future development of this site. So clearly, if the council puts housing on that site and doesn't give us an access, it landlocks us forever. So holistically, in looking forward, it'd be more sensible for them to give us an access of that road, so that going forward there's more potential to develop the stadium and perhaps put housing at that end. You know, the ideal scenario, we get entrance off there, the housing goes on there, we have that site, we can then develop in that corner without limitation, because there's no overlooking issues. So it all makes sense, but there are some costs to the council. It's more expensive, because what they have to do is clear that site, put a car park in for us, so they've got all that cost before they then start doing that. Now, if they just developed that site in isolation, they wouldn't have those additional costs. So there's some cost implications. They've got to weigh those cost implications against the future development of the site. But I'm hopeful it will happen, because clearly the council wants a football club to be prosperous, successful, and we want to redevelop the stand.
Yeah, just a very quick one. In terms of a subscription from the programme, I really hope that you look at this as somebody who can't make every home game, but who does try to collect a season of programmes. I've been disappointed this year. There's I've had to miss out on half a dozen home games where I couldn't get a programme, and I think the idea of a subscription for the season would provide guaranteed income and also guaranteed programme. My only other question was, and I realise this is not relevant for the great majority of home games that we do have, but where we do have a game with high interest, high attendance, is it possible to organise for a block of Robins fans to go in at the end, which is normally reserved for the visitors, assuming that it isn't fully taken up by the visitors, obviously?
It's segregation issues. And if we have got a high profile game, it's likely that end will be sold out by the away fans in any event. But we are being a bit more cute this year. I mean, for example, for the Grimsby game, we are not selling more than the end. We're not going to let them have seats around all the side and dominate our stadium. So we are trying to be a bit more cute than that. But in the past, obviously, Rovers and Oxford, we've let them have as many as we can. But it's difficult to have our fans and other fans in there because it costs us segregation, stewarding, everything else goes up.
Yeah. I was just wondering for a game, say like Lincoln, last game of the season, I couldn't see Lincoln filling that stand.
And we do have these discussions, and Paul has discussions on a regular basis with Andy and the police and whatever, and we do
one of the big issues is is over in the Thompson's Bank stand, the fact that there's the two sets of catering and toilets, and taking feedback from supporters over years, they're really unhappy with us when we've closed one set of the catering facility or toilet. So if you're going to have the whole of it open and you need both sets, really, it's difficult sometimes to segregate fans without having to close one. If you put our fans behind the goal, where do you put the visitors? You might have to put them up in that corner, in which case you've got to close half of the facilities underneath. So it's difficult balancing out to find sometimes.